Hi, I'm Damian. The research I'll be talking about today is some research I did with sharks and magnets and using magnets to change their behaviour. This research came about through an industry pressure actually. The fishermen themselves in the Barramundi fishery in North Queensland wanted to basically stop catching sharks as bycatch in their nets because it damaged their nets. They wanted a nice sustainable industry, and it's good for everyone to save the sharks. Sharks are really important in the ecosystem. Being apex predators, they keep everything else under control. As a basic concept, in a fishery, if you take out the apex predators, the mesopredators, the middle-sized ones tend to take over, and they'll basically eat a lot of the stuff that we want to catch as fish to eat ourselves. So sharks are special and different from normal bony fish in firstly that they're, and sharks includes rays, the elasmobranchs, but basically because they have a cartilaginous skeleton, so they're made out of cartilage like the stuff in your nose, as opposed to bone, but they also have a very specialised sensory system called the ampullae of Lorenzini, which in its basis is just some gel-filled tubules in their nose, and if you have a close look at a shark, which not many probably people do, there's little dots on the end of its nose, which are the end of the pores of the ampullae, and through a physics theory called Faraday's law, if you drive a loop through a field, you can pick up a difference in current at either end of the tubule. That's basically how it works, and pretty much they can pick up magnetic or electrical impulses in the water and actually use that sense to hunt, because the heartbeat of the fish gives off a little AC current, and that's the way they can pick it up using this sensory system. So basically this research was intended to try and keep the sharks out of the nets while still being able to catch the barramundi. So by exploiting the difference in the sensory systems, we thought that we'd be able to change the behaviour of the shark, hopefully, using strong magnets, but yet not affect the catch. The methods that we used to explore these issues and problems and potential solves, we had to get quite inventive with them because no one had done this work before. So I got my little inventor's hat on and set up a scaffold over a large tank we had at James Cook University here, and basically strung some big, large ferrite magnets in the water and filmed them from above to see what the reactions of the sharks would be to the magnets. And then obviously compared that with what we call a control, which is just something that looked exactly like the magnet but wasn't a magnet, just to see that it wasn't a physical object they were avoiding in the water. People may wonder why we didn't use rare earth magnets, which are the super strong magnets, as opposed to the ferrite magnets, which are basically a souped up version of what you have on your fridge, holding your bills to the fridge. Now, initial tests showed that the rare earth magnets, although being super strong on the surface, only had a range of 2 or 3 centimetres of effective Gauss or magnetic impulse. And with the ferrite magnets, although they had a lower reading at the face of the magnet, they extended a lot further, and what we were trying to do was create a zone of magnetic interference that would actually effectively form a buffer. The 4 species of sharks that we actually used for the study, we tried to take a bit of a broad section. So we had the spear-tooth shark, or Glyphis species, which is the river shark, and that was something that's directly impacted by the Barramundi fishery. We also used the grey reef shark, Carcharinus emblorhynchus, which is something that hunts in clear water and uses its eyesight to zero in on its prey. There was a little inshore shark called the sharp-nosed shark, or a rhizopteranodon, and that's just like a little thing that only grows to about 1 metre long that hunts inshore, and again is in sort of turbid sort of water and that sort of thing. And then there was another little inshore hammerhead shark, scalloped hammerhead, which we looked at as well, and also black-tip reef shark. So we had a good suite of different animals across the board. Well, what we found in this study was really interesting, and there's a lot more than we expected in it actually. Looked at 4 different species of sharks, and also Barramundi Litus calcarifer, the iconic food fish that this whole study was based on. We found that not only were there differences in the reactive potential of the sharks to the magnetic field, it related back to their feeding ecology, so that the animals that effectively used this sense, so if they're in a muddy environment and they can't see and they need to use this magnetic sense to zero in on their prey, They actually responded a lot better than the ones like the reef sharks that hunt in clear water and use their eyesight a lot more, which was a fantastic result, and was really unexpected that there would be such a difference in the results. So that was fantastic that we found that it related back to the feeding ecology, because that really gave it a solid basis in science. But also there was one really unusual result. The speartooth shark, which was only semi-described to science at the time, Glyphus species A, I think we called it at the time, was an animal that lives in muddy environments, and we expected it would have the strongest response to the magnetic fields. However, it had the weakest, and that was a real head scratcher there for a while, because we're trying to work out why that could actually be. And it turns out that because the animal has a large section of its life history in freshwater, it can't effectively use that sense in freshwater because of the low conductivity of freshwater. So the future for this sort of stuff as well is also to be able to be involved, if possible, in getting this into the actual fishery itself and trialling it on the nets. We didn't have the time or the money at the time to actually do field trials and work up a workable model, because obviously you get a whole bunch of really strong magnets on a net, they're all going to stick together, so it's going to be really hard to use for the fishermen. I guess the next thought on that would be electromagnetic nets and having a little generator on the boat. That's going into a whole new realm of possibilities, but I think that'd be a really positive way to go into the future. From here with this research, I think the research that we've done has been cited a lot of times in the literature, which means people are looking at it and trying to build on that knowledge from the basis that we helped to build. People always ask about the application of this to human swimming and safety at the beaches and all that sort of stuff, which is of course a very topical sort of thing. I think that what will happen is in the future this will become part of a suite or a raft of measures all put together which all help to mitigate shark bite against humans. There's other applications as well, even in recreational fishing. A colleague of mine some years ago did a study down in New South Wales where he's looking at trying to extend the fishable area around the grey nurse habitat, grey nurse sharks being endangered. He wanted to make sure they were still being protected but allowing a little bit more recreational fishery, and he came up with an idea of using the little rare earth magnets as a sinker and sliding that right down near the hook so that when the animal approaches it gets distracted by the magnetic field and won't take the bait. I believe there was some success with that study as well. My favourite thing about sharks is I think they're the best designed animal in the world. They look like a Porsche 911 and move through the water exactly like that. What keeps me going through some of the long, tedious days of science, where you're crunching heaps of numbers and stuff, is the absolute joy of discovery. Moving into the realms of taking a subject further, that people haven't taken it into areas before, discovering new things, even if they're weird, you've got to work out why that happened. The joy of discovery, that eureka moment, is what it's all about for me.